I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is David Morgan, publisher of the Morgan Report. Thank you so much for being here online with me today.
Charlotte, I'd rather be with you, but being online with you is the next best thing. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And of course, we are speaking the day after the US presidential election. We're actually still waiting to hear who the winner is at this time. But I want to start off by asking you for gold and silver, precious metals, does the result really matter?
Well, I think we went through this like 4 years ago before the election, and I recall my answer being something along the lines of the economic problems are so vast, it really doesn't matter that much who's in the White House. I mean, it might on a temporary basis, as far as for a few weeks or months post-election, one candidate or the other might cause a different reaction slightly, but the overall trend cannot be reversed regardless of which political party has the platform.
Yeah, I did go back and rewatch that interview from the same time 4 years ago, and you said exactly that. The economic and financial conditions are so deeply entrenched that it really doesn't make a huge difference who the president is. I wanted to ask how we've seen those conditions develop over the last 4 years. I know that's a very broad question, but let's see what we can do.
Well, as one of the greats would say, Jim Dines, a trend in motion continues until it actually stops. The trend is that we have to continue to borrow more and more and more money to keep the lifestyle. So that's basically on a individual basis for a lot of people. And it's also more importantly on a macro basis, which means the United States government has to borrow from a private bank called the Federal Reserve in order to pay for all the goodies out there that are received, and all the political stuff that's being done. So the Medicare, Medicaid, the welfare programs. And I'm not saying I'm for or against any of these things. All I'm saying is that the trend continues and it continues to expand. So we continue to borrow more and more money. It's basically running in place with on the treadmill with the carrot out in front. Sooner or later, we think we're going to get that carrot, but we really don't. We have to continue to run faster, which means print more money. So it's a sad condition that unfortunately doesn't usually end very well.
Right. And so we've kind of established that the narrative looks bullish for gold and other precious metals, no matter who wins. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the nuances we might see in the short term, depending on which party is elected. I've had some people, for example, mention that they may approach stimulus differently. Are there any things you could mention on that note?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had a little more time to think of it. I would say one could be the REEs, the rare earth elements. I mean, China is basically has the totality of that market. And in fact, the last TV interview I've done, not internet interview, but physically a television station, was about rare earth elements. So I think that with Trump's take on China, that it's more adversarial uh, against the free trade ideas that I would purport than maybe the other party. So that would be one. That's the first one that comes to mind. The other ones, I really just don't like to just say anything to sound good. I rather think about things. That's one that popped in my head. I think under the other administration there might be a better ability to mediate the rare earth element flow from China. That's it.
Can you give me your take on where the US may be headed overall? This year, we've had a lot of talk about money printing due to the coronavirus. We've got concerns about inflation. Is there anything that we can anticipate at this point, or should we really not be trying to make predictions?
Well, Charlotte, as you know, I'm kind of in the business of predictions. I think the trend's pretty clear that the standard of living is going to be lower overall for almost everybody on the planet. Obviously, the 0.0001% are probably doing better, but the general population, the other 99 point something percent, I think are looking toward a harsher times. I mean, food prices are going to accelerate. Cost of almost everything that's needed will go up. There'll be big dislocations throughout the real estate sector, particularly in commercial real estate. I say entertainment changed drastically, which you already are. You see what's happening to example movie theaters and then live sports. And then, all these places where we're used to gathering socially are been impacted and will continue to be so, I believe. And even if let's say this whole crisis thing goes away, there'll be so many restaurants, theaters, places for entertainment that won't be able to recover and come back. People that have, saved enough or whatever might be able to reinstitute them at, a lower price and, come back and later on in this conundrum we're in. So I think that's the overall trend. Unfortunately, it's very typical. If you look at a lot of economists, I'm more partial to the Austrian school, although not a strict adherent anymore. But the crack up boom, basically, again, running in front of that carrot. I mean, the more money you print, and the worse the worse the value of it becomes, the more you've got to continue to print. And there's this point where basically people really stop accepting the currency or look for alternatives. And of course, this has been in play for some time with cryptocurrencies. I mean, I'm not sure how many have thought of it philosophically that, cryptos are a replacement for the current monetary paradigm, but they are. And this will continue. So I think that's my long answer, Charlotte. I don't see it turning around and getting, rainbows and unicorns anytime soon.
Okay, and on the note of gold and silver, have prices been performing as you would expect during this time of election season?
Yes, I markets usually look to the future. I mean, gold to me has performed almost exactly as I would expect for the last couple of years, probably from the bottom of December 2015. Silver hasn't performed as I expected. I certainly didn't expect to see 125 to 1 gold to silver ratio, but it happened. I accept it and I talked about it. But gold is, and both the metals are going to accelerate from here, but not instantaneously. I look for them to be basically flat to the rest of the year. I could be surprised, but we already have a print of over 2,000 for gold and around 30 for silver, and we're under 25 for silver right now, and gold's just making 1,900 as we speak. So, but longer term, as we degrade the currency system globally, you will see more and more people come into the precious metals.
And I think you mentioned to me over the summer that you see silver as a more compelling investment opportunity compared to gold. Does that still hold true for you?
It does. I've also tried to be very clear from the beginning that I'm just not a silver advocate only. I really think that gold is your best bet for older people and people that are more conservative to basically protect their wealth. I think gold is better functioned as that, but silver is certainly that, as I've used as an analogy before, it's a Dow stock gold and a NASDAQ stock silver. You're probably going to get more bang for your buck in silver if you time it correctly. But if you're looking for silver as your primary investment, unless you've really got ice water in your veins, it's probably not the best place to put the bulk of your precious metals portfolio.
Okay, well, I think we have a good picture of everything that's going on surrounding the election. Are there any factors you're watching aside from the election, maybe things that we are forgetting or letting fall by the wayside as we go through this period?
I took a deep breath. Charlotte, yes. This is me. You asked me, so I'll tell you. I'm looking for some type of a greater awakening. I'm looking for people to kind of snap out of this left right paradigm and what's wrong with, the other party and start looking more inward at themselves and what they can do. I'm not very political. I can't avoid it. But, if you look back to John F. Kennedy, like him or not, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I like to see this kind of attitude that America particularly holds. I know you're Canadian. It's just the idea that be ruggedly independent. It doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. In fact, the lone wolf is a bad philosophy. But the idea that you could do more, give more, be more, and it starts with you. I'd like to see that become more pervasive. I think it's true in your generation more than mine. My generation, unfortunately, was a get generation. It was about how much stuff you could have. instead of how much heart you can build. But I think your generation is doing the opposite, and I commend you all for that. And I would say continue, and I like to see that movement take place. I know it's maybe a bit idealistic, but I am an idealist. I certainly believe in the human condition, that we can we can be better than what we are, and I know that. We become much different through the last few decades than what we were, let's say, the previous, 3 or 4.
And advice for investors as we head toward the end of the year of what's been a very interesting and tumultuous year.
Yeah, I think be realistic. I think also, I would say invest with your conscience. I just finished reading an article in Investors Business Daily about, these green investments, and you can do, investing in that arena and still make some pretty good money. I like to use the word conscious capitalism, and whether it exists or not, but this idea that, you can have some type of harsh chemicals and you can make more money by dumping it in the river. I mean, come on, and does that happen? And the answer is, yeah, it still does. uh, even with laws against it in some places. So, it's time to balance ourselves. And I use that word all the time because we've just gotten way out of balance. And as I've said before, Mother Nature sort of has a way, there's kind of a financial Mother Nature that brings us back into balance. And maybe we should be getting by or doing with less and appreciating it more, get less and appreciate it more. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, perfect. We can leave it there for now. Thank you for sharing your thoughts again on post-election day. It was great to hear that consistency from 4 years ago to today.
Charles, it's always fun to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you again. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is David Morgan with the Morgan Report.